'Cause we're differently abled, differently.
Welcome back. Different stakeholders from Africa under the umbrella Africa Union of the Blind held a high-level discussion on the ratification of the African Disability Protocol. Take a look.
'Cause we're differently abled, differently.
On the 28th of March, the African Union of the Blind, Africa Disability Alliance, and the Christoffel Blind Mission held a high-level discussion on the ratification of the African Disability Protocol.
This is one more reflection session for us to have a way forward. What Kenya has to do, or how can we lobby or advocate for this process to take place also in Kenya. This is something we have been doing in different countries, but now, in this exact moment, we are happy to have here members of government and DPOs together, just friendly discussion and to see how we are going to lobby for ratification of this process, which is very important for people with disability in Kenya.
We cannot leave people with disabilities behind. They need to be fully present, and they need to be fully present even after the protocol has been ratified, because they need to make sure again that it is implemented, because at the end of the day, these protocols will be signed, but if they are not implemented, then the whole idea of rights of people with disabilities will not be a lived reality. It will just be on paper and in the shelves.
Despite the fact that different countries have laws that govern human rights and the UN Convention in place, there is need for a new set of rules that are specific to Africans.
I think that a key aspect as a way forward is for us as various agencies to join our hands together for purposes of synergy, to see that we upscale the advocacy efforts to ensure that we have as many countries and as fast as possible ratify the African Disability Protocol. For example, CDM is doing something about it, ADA is doing something about it, AFOB is doing something about it, and at the level of site servers, we're also doing something about it across about 20 countries in Africa. I want to believe that maybe across we may not be knowing exactly what other agencies are doing. So an action plan sort of could be necessary for the 5 or so agencies that are dealing in this very important matter.
We know that oftentimes a lot of policies are signed into law, protocols are adopted, which is all good. But the question to ask is, do people with disabilities know what policies are being signed on their behalf? Were they even told? Was their voice even heard in terms of saying, what do you think your needs are? And what can we put in this policy to make sure that your needs are addressed? And so we thought, and really sometimes it's not because of malicious intent. It's because of how things have been through the years. Because through the years, often people with disabilities have been on the margins. They have been forgotten. They have remained invisible in a society that requires people to be visible in order to be heard or attention to.
In the brief morning session, it was noted with concern that the protocol requires ratification from 15 African countries to be effective, but 1 year later, no country has ratified.
Commitment by the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection towards ratification of this treaty. But when you look at Part 3 of the Treaty Making and Ratification Act, there are many other things that need to be done except public participation to ensure the ratification of this act. Do we have a roadmap as a country towards ratification? So for example, have we started crafting the memorandum and thinking of the reasons why the country should ratify? Have we submitted this memorandum to Cabinet? Then after approval, has it been taken to the National Assembly? And thereafter, there is public participation before the National Assembly gives its okay for the country to ratify. So these are some of the questions we need to think about beyond public participation, and we need a roadmap. And I speak as the agency which is in charge of ensuring state compliance with international treaty and conventions concerning human rights, and also the monitoring agency under Article 33(2) of the CRPD. So these are things that we need to think about as a country so that we can hasten the ratification of this protocol.
However, Mr. Simwa from the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection says that Kenya has committed to ratify the protocol.
Last year, Kenya committed itself during the Global Disability Summit to ratify the African protocol. So we are on course. We want to take the protocol to the people of Kenya. We explain what it's all about. After that, we shall go to Addis Ababa, and His Excellency the President is keen into ratifying and signing this protocol.
The three organizations believe that Kenya will set the pace once it ratifies the protocol.
But we do the similar campaigns in all over the Africa. Myself, I've been in Angola, speaking about ADP in September last year. I've been in Guinea-Bissau, I've been in South Africa. That means the campaign is going all over Africa at the same time, depending on procedures of each country, because there are countries with this. Ratification is depend on parliament, ratification depend on the president, ratification depend on ministers. We don't know exactly which country will be the next, but we wish if Kenya ratifies now, some countries in East Africa, they are going to follow the example.
In our own portfolio, Site Savers, we have a briefing on this protocol. We've simplified the protocol in such a way that our countries where Site Savers exists across the continent do understand exactly what they need to in order to engage governments so as we have speedy ratification of this treaty. So I'm here together with the African Disability Alliance, CBM and other agencies to combine efforts to synergize so that we see as a first step in Africa, Kenya, which is a powerhouse, ratifies the African Disability Protocol.
'Cause we're differently